Welcome to Celtic Ligers.
.com.
Yeah, I keep forgetting that we have a .com. I think that has helped our SEO slightly. Search engine optimization for all you plebs out there.
That's it. They're like, whoa, these guys have a website. That's us.
Yeah. Your mic, I mean, it's real torture editing.
Why?
Why? Really editing your audio is the worst experience in the world.
Why?
Because you make so much noise, you move the cable around so much, and then the thing is, like, people. One time we got a complaint, and I was like, James is very low on the thing, and I was like, I wish, I'd crank him if I could, but like, you literally just hear the rustling of like crisp packets and shit like this.
It's because I'm subtle.
That's the opposite of subtle.
But you're a loud pig, and
Okay. So,
you purposefully put me low so people agree with you more.
Yeah, because they don't know it, but when they hear, the loudest voice always wins, as we know.
No, that's to Trump.
Hear that? That's James. All that amazing rustling that's going on.
Yeah.
And you know the way he sounds close sometimes and further away other times?
No, I never
That's
listened
because
to
he just does whatever he wants with the mic.
Yeah. There's a difference between you and me. I'm your boss, and you do
my bidding.
I'm your boss, and you do what I say. That's the difference between me and you.
The difference between you and me, by me and you, I'm your boss. So I should have been in black,
And you do what I say. We're in Kerry. Gareth broke the lockdown. He's here in Kerry.
You also broke the lockdown again because you came up to pick me up, and also you broke it when you left Dublin to come here. But you were doing it for work. So.
Yeah, so you
undermined
your own point.
Not many people would call writing a play work. But
yeah,
yet it is. Also, I'm doing work. The podcast. This is work.
No, it's not. Just because your mum says it's work.
Yeah, that is very funny that she says that it's work.
Are you finished working?
Yeah. She's like, is work finished yet? Do you want to... And I'm like, shut up, Mom.
Yeah, Mom, when's dinner?
Yeah, that's what I do. Clams. Ugh.
Yeah. We had clams.
Yeah. I love my mom. Thank you, Mom, for everything that you make this all possible. Yeah. So I made this document on the 5th of the 10th, 2020. Okay? As in, like, I've been accumulating stories since then. And there's some stuff that just needs to be said.
This is a power play. I don't like this setup.
It's annoying that it needs to be said because first of all, we need to talk about Irish shit because we haven't talked about that in ages. Secondly, we need to talk about Leo because that has to happen, Leo's latest. So what I have at the top is Leo on Claire Byrne.
Read to me the top 3 things and then
I'm going to read them all to you, but because it's progression.
I just want the laptop to be closed because you're in control.
It's not going to.
Well, then can you put it so I can see it?
No.
No, do. It will make for a better podcast.
No.
It will. Come on, do.
It'll be fine. Would you just listen? Would you? Is that at all possible?
Because then you're directing the podcast.
Why are you being this way? You are so like power play. You think that everybody's trying to do power plays?
I'm not thinking it's a power play. I'm just saying it would make for a better podcast.
Well, if you think that, then I'll put it in the middle. But I'm telling you, it's just there's nothing here. It's like
yeah.
All right, so move that.
That's it. Just break the laptop.
This is like our grouchiest one. We're all just pissed off at each other. It is very late, and we have been spending a lot of time in each other's company.
Yeah, it's your fault.
Okay.
Don't angle it.
No, I'm not. I'm pushing. Oh my god, just shut the fuck up. Okay, so
what does that say?
Leo on CB.
Claire Byrne.
There, you got it. I thought you would make some CBD thing.
Yeah. Okay, we can do that.
Let's go back.
So he's like, "Oh, I'm so relaxed."
He's like, I'm very relaxed. I'm quite hungry. I'm a bit sleepy.
The CBD,
does it not make you hungry?
No.
Okay.
It just makes you slightly more relaxed.
All right. Well, that's cool.
He pays 70 quid for a bottle.
Oh, that's not so good.
No, but he can afford it.
Well, okay, so, people know now, but for people in the future, or people, I suppose, overseas.
Yeah, maybe this is lost in the annals of time.
So, last Sunday, me and James were recording a podcast.
Tell them who Leo is.
Leo is a star sign. He's the lion. He's a bloody lion.
Yeah, he's a
freaking... So, no, Leo Bradker.
Is the Taoiseach.
No, he's a Taoiseach.
Well, he was a Taoiseach.
That's always your excuse when you get that wrong. It's like, yeah, but he was.
He was.
So it's okay.
He's fucking...
that you said it incorrectly.
He's fucking acting like the Taoiseach, isn't he?
Yeah. So,
Gareth, isn't he?
Yes, agreed. So, tally that up. One win. Are you happy?
And I got the laptop.
And he's written one. So that's two.
Yeah, that's two.
So, Leo... So, basically, you heard it here first, folks.
Yes.
Live,
Leo is the Taoiseach.
No. Live on the podcast... Live when we were recording last Sunday, we discovered that level 5 restrictions were potentially coming into place.
Yeah.
And we had a very real reaction to that.
And then Leo was like, not on my watch.
Leo was like, I don't know how this happened and I don't know what the deal. So he went on Claire Byrne and decided to throw Tony Holohan under the bus.
But like, he was so close to just being like, Tony Holohan's a fat mess.
Yeah,
he was so harsh about it. He was like, he's just back from his holidays and sure he's... Like, he was like...
Back from the, his holidays where he's just having a relaxing time with his wife having cancer and taking care of her, So he came back. Tony Holohan just, like, kicked in the doors, just being like, this shit is fucked. Let's do something. Yeah. And so then apparently it was leaked, although the only person who would potentially benefit from NEFIT being leaked... What's the acronym NEFIT stand for? I don't even remember. It doesn't matter. The point is they're a health authority. Do you know?
Oh, they're an authority, all right.
So
an authority on bullshit.
So then, why are we like...
Coronavirus isn't even real.
Explain. Elaborate.
What's that, a power play? Making me explain my own accusations? Look, I'll just put it like this. If it was so real, then why did... Well, so Leo's on Claire Byrne, and he was like, accused Tony Holohan
of being
no. Being what?
Being a paedophile.
No, that would rule. If he was like, you should check his Tulsa file.
Tulsa?
What's it called?
Tulsa? What? No, what is it?
You should check his pedophile records.
I think it was the thing that his record, for the amount of sex crimes against children, as it calls, his pedophile.
No.
Yeah, it's good though, isn't it?
It would have been good. Yeah.
So he's up there and he goes like, he turns into a socialist for like 2 seconds where he goes.
That was so good. I hated that.
Yeah, he goes like, well, the thing is, I'm quite angry about it. I'm a little pissed off. He didn't say that, but he said like, these guys don't know what it's like to run a small business, to have to put people out in pandemic unemployment payment. It was like, which also he voted against later in the week.
And then he was like, and at the end of the day, they're not going to be on the dole.
Yeah.
It's like, don't pretend like you care.
Yeah. It is quite astounding, but again, like you said, because they voted their own pay levels back to the same levels that it was during the Celtic Tiger.
That's it.
And then on top of that, like again, day one of pandemic unemployment, we were talking about it from the start. He was like, well, we have to end this as soon as humanly possible.
That's it. He was like, if dole scroungers had any honor, they would kill themselves.
Commit seppuku for the fucking,
But unfortunately, the working class aren't honourable. Yeah. So they will never do that.
Fast forward, the working class are why Tony Holohan is an asshole, because he doesn't understand the working class like I do.
I know. And they don't need to commit seppuku. Whatever it's called.
Yeah, whatever the fuck it's called.
Whatever I said. Yeah. Because they're my friends, and friends don't let friends.
Yeah.
Get COVID.
So then he kind of slyly implied that
Tony Holohan was fat.
That Tony Holohan, the NEFIT leaked the report and then it was discovered that they didn't leak the report, and then they were like, yeah, but there was something suspicious about the way it dropped on Sunday, and then it's like, well, actually they meet regularly on Sunday. That's what they've done throughout the entire pandemic stuff.
And then they were like, oh, we told Stephen Donnelly about it.
Yeah,
exactly. Did you hear that bit?
Yeah, it did, yeah.
And it's like, so they did tell you.
Yeah, I love it because he's pissed off because two things is, because then he comes back later and he's like, yeah, well, I was a little hot on Sunday. I fired off, and I think I was expressing the rage that everybody else was feeling. And it was like,
do you know what else is hot?
What?
The Armalite under his car when I blow it up.
That's getting edited out.
Don't.
That 11 minutes,
I mean
53 seconds. So, no, he's kind of like, yeah, he did it. They were going, are you going to apologize for basically accusing Tony Houlihan of leaking this? He's like, well, I don't think apologies are necessary. We just have to get on the business of doing work.
He was like, we're friends.
He's like, we're friends. This just happens. Things go like that. But also, they did fuck up. And it was like, no, they didn't. They didn't fuck up. We know that they didn't.
Isn't that what like teenage girls do when they're like, oh no, we're friends. I'm just saying that you're fat. But we're friends. We don't need to apologize about it.
Friends don't need to apologize. I mean, if you want to apologize to me, that's fine. But like, I'm not personally sorry to you. Like,
But if you're sorry to me, that's fine. I'll take it.
Yeah.
That you are.
I mean, I'm going to presume you are because you did fuck me over. But
he's just saying this on TV, directly to the camera.
Yeah. So he was like, So basically, Tony Houlihan was, or Neffet was immediately vindicated because this week was like, we have basically everybody in the country has COVID twice. You know what I mean?
That's it.
Just an insane amount of cases. And it's like, well, we have to be careful, because like with the levels thing, because I'm back home with my parents. So my parents are like...
making you clams.
Making me clams. They're lovely. But like... we were having disagreements basically about the level system. So to them, they were like, the levels are incredibly clear. You just check the website and it. And I was like, first of all, you said check the website. Then it's not clear. Immediately, that's what I think.
Yeah, you and Phil Hogan have been making this point for quite a while.
No, but I do think that I also think like they go, okay, we've got the government announces a level system. We've got level 1 to 5, and it couldn't be clearer. Okay, what's Dublin? 2.5.
Dublin's a green zone. Yeah,
you're just kind of like
green zone.
Already immediately you've like you see what happens, and I think what's going to happen is like we're not going to level 5. We're just going to do level 3 with elements of level 5.
Yeah,
it's like
we're going to do like level 3 with some level 2 on top of level 3.
Yeah.
So level 5.
Yeah. So we have like it's actually level 1. Okay.
Yeah.
But everything that happens level 5 applies to level 1, but we're still in level 1.
Yeah. That's it.
So yeah, it just makes basically he's a little bitch, and he went out there, tried to make a meal of it, and
came home hungry.
Yeah, but what he did as well. What happened is he also really, I think the reason he's so pissed off, because sorry, I'm getting distracted now, but one of the things that happened is, you remember when that person threw the milkshake at him? Yeah?
Yeah, you think that was like his aide or something, don't you?
Oh yeah, I think it was a young Fine Gaeler, and I think that he does have security around him, despite the fact people say, oh, you can approach everybody. I think somebody would have gotten her, and then the fact that he wasn't upset about it afterwards means it was completely planned.
No, see, I think it was a young Fine Gaeler, right?
Yeah.
But I think it was like, the way Pope John Paul got assassinated by a conservative element of the Catholic Church?
I didn't know that.
Well, she was like upset with him for being too liberal, you know? And that's why she was doing it. So it was like an actual attack.
Yeah, yeah.
But it was actually young Fine Gaeler.
Well, here's what I think. I think it was staged, and I think it was like, to be honest, we were... I don't know if we edit this bit out, but
no.
But you were leaving my house one of the days when we recorded the podcast, and you said something like you had heard through some sort of grapevine that they were going to come up with a campaign about harassment that Fine Gael councillors were receiving, and mainly it was the men who were pushing for it, even though they were trying to put the women up front. And then literally hours after you said that to me, he got hit with this milkshake, you know what I mean? And I suddenly was like, is this their like soft launch of this campaign? It was like, oh, I got hit by a milkshake, but then they failed to kind of capitalize on it. And then the reason I'm convinced that it was fake is because he has now come out so pissed off against Tony Holohan for like, well, it's not less, but it's like you just see like a bit of like
he gets so incredibly pissy the whole time.
Then you just wonder, why did he go, oh, she was like a skater girl. I thought she was Avril Lavigne.
That's it. Like politicians milk anything.
Yeah.
Let alone a milkshake.
Yeah, nice. But that's why I'm convinced that it was a fake. That was a setup. But then, the thing is, he basically was like, basically seemed to assume that people would like him more than Tony Holohan. That's what I feel about it, because he basically like, yeah, Tony Holohan's a real piece of shit. I don't like him. Fuck that guy. And then people were like, well, actually, I trust him a lot more than you, and I think you're wrong, and I think you need to apologize.
And then he's like, whenever Tony Holohan's ready to apologize, I'll take it.
Yeah, exactly.
And then we can get back to work. I'll set a few things straight.
Yeah.
And then he's like, Tony Holohan, is, what's another insult?
Basic.
Yeah. That's a good one.
Yeah. Tony Holohan's a real basic bitch. I won't apologize. Don't at me.
Yeah. On Twitter, because he uses Twitter a lot.
Yeah, he loves Twitter.
He's like, I spent 35,000 euro on a tweet to say he's basic bitch.
I do love.
Do not respond.
When they do like Twitter as well, it's like they complain, well, Twitter isn't real life, and actually Twitter is shit. And I was like, you spend a lot of time on it, getting upset about everything on it to talk about how it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, when he's like, oh, they didn't run it past any of us, okay?
Which they
did. Which they did. But the thing, what he really meant is like, he wishes he was in the room with those decisions. But like, it's like they brought it to Donnelly, and then I think Martin then knew from Donnelly and was kind of like, oh, I didn't realize that it would get out, but whatever. But he's pissed off because he's like, you didn't tell me though. And it's like, well, I don't need to fucking tell you. You're not the Minister for Health. You're like the Taoiseach, but I talk between these two people,
It's like you chose small businesses or whatever the fuck you chose. But with all this stuff, he can just say whatever he likes, because he knows if there's another general election, Fine Gael will get back in. Or like, that's what he believes.
Yeah.
Like, whether it's true or not, he believes it, and he has reason to believe it.
Well, he has reason to believe it, but the funny thing is that, like, being him, just doing his natural instinct is bad for Fine Gael.
I know, but, like, so he just comes out and says whatever he likes, because he thinks that.
Yeah.
In one way, he holds a lot of power, because he can complain and criticise the government, and then if the government falls, he's just like, well, I'll just be Taoiseach again. Do you know what I mean? And he's like, don't worry, James, you won't have to learn that I'm Taoiseach because I'm Taoiseach.
Yeah. Leo's basis smear about Neffet leaking it incorrect, but he doubled down. We've already talked about this. Sorry about this, everybody.
Yeah, maybe the document isn't so good after all.
Actually, the document's really good.
I'll talk about another tweet that he had. Just off the dome.
That's at the bottom.
Just off the dome.
Yeah.
Can we cut to that, or do you want to do the document?
No, well, here we go. Okay, so one thing is Fine Gael is still remains on top in an opinion poll. Sinn Féin second, Greens dropping sharply. So this week, Fine Gael are still ahead. So yeah, that's also true. Let's talk about that tweet, because actually it turns out I didn't screen grab it.
Nice.
Yeah.
So he put out this tweet. Supposedly, he thought he like slammed Sinn Féin on this one,
which was very good.
And he was like, multinational companies have been with us and helped us get out of the recession. Why would Sinn Féin...
Important point missing there, of course.
Yeah.
That they also helped us get into the recession.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Or like even just that they weren't doing it for the good of our health.
Yeah.
And he's like, so what do Sinn Féin want to do? They want to tax them.
Yeah.
And it's like, you should tax them.
Yeah.
You yourself would have always said like, we need to tax them competitively.
Yeah.
But now you're just like, they want to tax them at all?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, that was so strange. And it seemed to have been fired off very quickly. Like, I don't think that he was thinking all that clearly, do you know?
Yeah, someone should take his phone away.
I mean, he's got so many advisors and PR people. But again, like, it kind of doesn't matter. Because, like, a lot of people don't see that side of Leo. Do you know what I mean? Like, we see it. But I don't think that the general voting Irish public is really on Twitter in that way.
No, that's it. The only tweets they see are the ones that like get featured in, I don't know, the Irish Times.
Yeah, or the news or whatever. Like sometimes they'll put up, he wishes a speedy recovery to Trump over his COVID or whatever.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
or talking about how he used to go out with Brezzy.
Yes. That was a rumor, wasn't it?
No, it's true.
Was it actually true though?
That's why he's depressed.
So yeah, basically he put out that tweet, and it was I basically what I think they should do is just print out that tweet and stick it on a bunch of posters next election, just up there everywhere. It's just so frustrating. Like he just blatantly lies and blatantly said and you know, we're now in a stage where he's not even Taoiseach.
I know, and he's so vogue. I was looking forward to Micheál Martin's old man vibe of cronyism, you know what I mean?
Yeah, so was I, yeah.
I wanted Micheál Martin to be on Twitter, you know, spelling words wrong, putting a space in between, like, the last letter of a sentence and the full stop.
Yeah.
You know, typing in caps lock for some reason.
Turning something into a hashtag by mistake, you know.
Or to like a website, you know.
Yeah, like, linking to a website that's just a 404 page,
yeah.
You know?
He's like, or like, check out this meme I saw, but it's like C drive, you know. Like,
yeah.
He's like into the file on his computer, so it doesn't work.
Or just like a picture that is just 2 pixels, you know.
Yeah, just incredibly blown out. Just me having a good time.
Yeah, but anyhow, yeah. So Leo, God, we're just all over the place at this.
No, we're not.
Is it good?
We're exactly where I want us to be.
The trap closes in.
Yeah, the trap closes on the mouse's dick.
Tail. Oh, okay. That's what a mouse's dick is. It's a tail.
Yeah, it's long, hairless tail.
His dick. So yeah, it's annoying to have to keep talking about him. But then, you know, what I was going to say is that, you know, we kind of you think like, oh yeah, when Micheál Martin's in the driver's seat, then all the media is going to be paying attention to him, and it's like, well, actually no, because that's not what he wants either. He's perfectly happy to operate in kind of slightly like. I thought that he was always kind of pissed off at Leo and was like, God, this young upstart, and like,
no way.
If I was in charge, and it's like, no, he's like, keep doing it, man. I'm happy out, like, you know what I mean? I'll do my thing, you know. Yeah. And then of course, like they because of how bitchy and awful Leo has been, it also gives him other reason to be like, why the fuck would I trust you with the Neffet report on Sunday? He's like, oh, this completely blindsided me. The Taoiseach Leo Varadkar. It's like, I don't need to tell you anything. Do you know what I mean?
That's it.
You're a little turd. So
he's like, I should cut your tongue out just for speaking back to me.
But it is funny that he like Leo, if he could just chill, then he would be in such a good position. And I mean, I guess they are of like,
if Leo went on Claire Byrne and he was just like, this blindsided me, just like in The Hobbits where the fucking eagle came in. You know what I mean? He just references a film on Claire Byrne.
Or if he just like, you know, it's terrible and it's awful and we're going to have to try and figure out some solution, and I think there's a way to work around. But instead, like, he's just like, well, what the fuck is wrong with them? How dare they tell us what's going on? And it's like, that's just their opinion. They know health, but they don't know life. And I know fucking life.
I grew up on the streets.
Yeah.
What school did I go to?
The school of Hard Gonzaga.
No.
Yeah. I don't know if you went to Gonzaga, but it stands to reason.
Seems like you did.
Yeah. So anyways, that's just a fucking big gibberish cloud of nothing that we just said.
No, it's good. Don't criticize it.
I'm going to criticize it. No, I'm not. Okay.
I have some speaking from the heart to do.
Okay.
An anti-Dublin rhetoric that I've been subjected to.
Just now?
No, the whole time I've been in Kerry.
Mm.
Have you noticed this?
No.
Every time I go somewhere, people think I have coronavirus because I'm from Dublin.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you're from Galway and you get off scot-free.
Yeah, but you keep labelling me as being from Dublin. Like the last day there, this guy asked us, where are you from? And James just quickly, Dublin.
When I said, I'm from Dublin.
Yeah, we said, where are ye from? And you said, Dublin. You didn't say I'm from Dublin, you said Dublin.
Well, that's where you go. Galway, but culturally I'm from Dublin.
Yeah, you said this, and it's still like
ringing
boils my potatoes.
Yeah, boils your coddle.
Yeah, God, what is the? I really hate the coddle bullshit on Twitter. People go, oh, the coddle discourse and this stuff is like, I hate this. Stop being this twee weird like. Yeah, I'm kind of like up to my fucking ears, or like fed up of twee shit at the moment. Because of like one of the things that I heard was Ryan Tubridy the morning after the potential level 5 restrictions were...
The morning after the night before.
And he was like, kind of being, oh, well, that's life. We'll be back in lockdown. We'll be back doing this, And remember when we were all buying toilet roll? What was that all about? And it's just like, shut the fuck up. I am fed up. I don't want to be here anymore, And like, they get all fucking... Spanish arch teenagers or, the college kids, it's like, crackdown, I want fucking blood. And then when the government fucks up, it's like, well, what can be done,
That's it. Yeah, but that is the thing. It's like, everyone is going mad about Spanish arch, or like, going mad about Dubliners, or going mad about, what was the other ones? They're like a scare every few days.
Raves up in wherever.
Yeah, like raves.
Yeah.
And then it's like the government are just fucking the whole thing up.
Well, they're fucking the whole thing up, and I think that it's obviously,
And like even in Northern Ireland, they're just refusing, government are refusing to take it seriously.
Yeah.
And our government are failing to account for they're not taking it seriously.
Yeah, well, I think it's amazing that we didn't do all our island figures until the recent shit that's happened up in Northern Ireland. You know what I mean? It would be like, oh, there's cases in the Republic, there's cases here. But like, just always do all island figures because it's irrelevant. The border is not a physical border. It will not prevent, like,
What?
As in, like, but anyway.
I thought it was like an ice wall.
No, whatever. I'm losing my mind right now.
Why?
I don't know. I just feel tired, stressed, and like there's so much that's kind of happened, and I'm pissed off about it, and it's hard to put into words, and it's like so futile as well. It just feels like I think I'm talking about there is like the every single solution I have requires going back in time. Do you know what I mean? As in, like, don't accelerate the opening up of Ireland. You know what I mean? Don't cave to the pressure of these interest lobbies. Do you know?
Well, that's it. Like, if the government wants to do another lockdown, they should say, we fucked up the last one.
Yeah.
But here's what's going to be different.
Yes.
But instead they keep talking about this circuit breaker lockdown. And they're like, oh, it'll just be like last time when everything was reset.
Well, actually, it's Leo saying that. Like, every Fianna Fáil person I've heard, like, I don't know what the fuck he's talking about with a circuit breaker. So it's like you have all these people who are just pulling their respective parties apart at the seams. Fianna Fáilers out for their own end. Fine Gaelers out to undermine Fianna Fáilers. Green Party people out to fucking lunch. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just like this whole mess of individuals that don't actually form any sort of government anymore. And then what it ends up happening is it opens up these kind of the reason I wrote up there about in the list of the weird Croatian guy. So I was talking to this, basically I foolishly tried to engage with somebody earnestly in the replies to something.
Was it earnest?
Yeah, it was. It was.
Okay.
Well, wasn't. I mean, I think it was. Like, honestly, I was just asking him like why he thinks this stuff. So it was like, it was Naomi O'Leary had an article, and he was basically saying like the pandemic is overblown. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And
people are making a fuss over nothing. But then he was like, you can't enforce this stuff. You just kind of need to rely on people's goodwill, and that's true to an extent. But like, I was kind of thinking like, you need, to me, clear guidelines set from the, like, so, in theory, to me, the idea of government would be to relinquish a little bit of control so that you can have this, these elected group of people that act in the public interest or good, and so you do that, and that means like when there's a virus, they just are like, okay, shut down these things. Here are the rules. Let's stay here. do our best. And you don't necessarily enforce them because you don't, in ideal circumstance, you wouldn't necessarily have to enforce them. People would just follow them. But because people don't like the government, don't believe the government, and then what you also have now is like the government have flouted their own rules consistently. So the public will is like well and truly gone. Like they've destroyed it. And there is no reprieve. There's nothing happening. So all these people are like, fuck it, I'm going to go out to the Spanish Arch and get fucking hammered. I don't give a shit anymore. And then they scold them. And now they're saying like, well, we have to go back into lockdown and, there's no pandemic unemployment payment. There's no social fabric or cohesion, anything that also...
weren't they going to review, what was it, HAP or something, or rent freeze? Or
Yeah, they were going to... Owen O'Brien put up that an eviction ban and rent freeze until 2021. Or 2022.
Yeah, they were going to review it next year or something, weren't
No, they were going to... It was a bill he put forward, and then they went like, no, voted it down. But then, I think what I was referring to is something I mentioned in the last episode, which is Leo said... God, what was it? Sick pay for care workers, and then they're going to introduce the legislation next year, like midway through next year.
Yeah, that was it.
I mean, it's just this thing where it's like, just throw us a fucking bone. Like, it's weird having your cake and eating it shit, where it's like, we will give you nothing, and we expect you to stay in your house so that this virus doesn't kill more people, And meanwhile, they're giving themselves all this stuff. I mean, I don't want to point out anymore the hypocrisy of them constantly rewarding themselves and the public not. But and I think that the Oireachtas dinner really meant, it's like the recession. It's like when people say, the arse falls out of the economy, people suffer, austerity happens. And it's like, they go, well, that happened, moving on. And then years later, it's like, well, the economy's doing great. So I don't know what people are complaining about, in all honesty. It's like, yeah, well... People don't feel either.
That's it. Like all this stuff, the COVID payments, or it's like pulling teeth. And then every time you open a newspaper or go online, they're talking about how there's going to be these 10 billion, or whatever the amount is, investment in businesses. Yeah. Like all the talk about any social welfare is towards business and not towards people. You know what I mean? It's always like talking about how businesses are going to get loads of money.
But I'm thinking like we think with Phil Hogan's departure that the Oireachtas thing is done. Phil Hogan's taken out. He was a sacrificial lamb. We're all fine. No, that is still weighing on the minds of every single person, because every single person knows they don't fucking care. You know what I mean? They're going to do what they want to do, and but then the media has kind of moved on. So, Alan Hayes, or Hayes has got away, Brian Hayes got away like scot-free. The Justice Wolf, it turns out, actually, no, he was in the right,
Well, that's it. But like the media are just so focused on, they're so focused on government agreeing with what the government are doing. Yeah. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, there should be more money helping people stay at home. Yeah. But all the money is going towards like businesses. Yeah. Like that's where all the, what do they call them? Like renewal or economic redevelopment funds. It's all going towards business. Yeah. But like big business. The newspapers are just saying, it's great, all this money is going towards businesses. Yeah. And then they're not questioning why ordinary people aren't seeing any of the money. And then, some people who are just seeing all this money going to the wrong places. Yeah. And they're like, well, we're doing really badly.
But they seem like to be completely oblivious to they go like, why are people out in the streets? Why are they going to this fascist stuff? Why are they resorting to being cranks, essentially? And it's like, it's a real, I don't know. I mean, I feel like we're saying something that is fairly obvious, which is what's annoying me. Do you know what I mean? Which is that, like, when people go, don't get mad at some of the people who show up at the anti-mask thing. It's like they don't know any better because of what's going on. Do you know? As in, like, they're joining these crews because they're pissed off and angry, and they're taken to the streets. It's like, we're kind of saying this is like people are getting squeezed and they're making confusing decisions and getting pissed off about things.
Yeah, I'm not sure the economic peril is feeding into the anti-mask stuff as much as I did.
Okay.
I think it's... I don't know why. I don't really believe that there's a link between those two things.
I guess to just try and rein in some of the stuff that we've been talking about, because it was a real, like, there was a lot of news to get through, and I feel like either we didn't give it, like, appropriate context, or we kind of jumped from one thing to the other. But what I think at this moment in time is this, it just feels like some sort of atomic bomb has, like, just blown apart all of this kind of social fabric, and we're just looking at different pieces and trying to pull it all together. But then the other thing that's happened is the opinions or approaches of the elites has not changed at all. Like, their thing that they keep saying is, we have to pay this back immediately, rather than, like, and then they also are still stealing and fucking people over the same way they did before as well. So it's like it's like the ship is sinking, and then people are still, like, drilling holes, taking chunks of it out. Like, this is the part of the Titanic will be, worth something someday, and I'll be able to protect myself once I get on the lifeboat that I have prepared, and then the other people are at the other end going like, well, this bit is still not wet, this bit's in the air, like, we're good, and it's just like, it's just this weird, like, I just can't pull it all into my head. I'm getting very frazzled thinking about it.
Like you said, it's like a bomb, but really it isn't, because society's been consistently drifting apart for the past, like, 30, 40 years.
Yeah.
And this is the first major crisis we're seeing, you know, like, of this nature. So I think it's just novel to us,
Yeah.
But it's not like anything has suddenly changed. It's just that, like...
I guess it's just a kind of confirmation of things, and just a reveal of, like, how little is there to protect people, and how little will there is from public officials or elites to do anything about it. You know what I mean?
But maybe it's not so different how it was, because, like, there's always been the case, like, if you go back to the 1800s, like when Ireland was under the English.
Yeah.
You had a situation in which the rich looked after themselves and the poor were left to get fucked.
Yeah.
And you had these ideas of, like, that the poor shouldn't be pampered.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, exactly. Famine roads and all this shit.
Well, just like during you see, even the famine roads were acts of charity, and I mean, in one way they're not so bad, but, like, charity work was made illegal during the famine.
Really?
Because they were just like, we don't want any of our money going to these people.
Yeah.
So it's maybe like the symptoms of what we're saying with the government aren't actually symptoms of atomization of society. It's just the elites being like, we don't want to pamper these people, and that's it,
I just find it so odd, because it's the thing that, where you suddenly have a housing crisis and you have all these hotels being approved, and then we go into a point where people aren't using hotels and now it's just co-living being approved, and you just kind of have this feeling where it's like, like the thing is like, what, are people going to come and visit and see all the fucking hotels? You've removed single thing that makes this place interesting. And that's why I think about this. It's like with the way they're handling this pandemic is like, like a little bit like what you say, where it's like, no, it's you need to do a bit of struggle, and then, or, I'm going to do a bit of plunder. But, like, they are all trying to, part of a government that almost, like, who are they going to govern? You know what I mean? After a certain point, when people get so pissed off, alienated and atomized, or people fucking die.
But
you know
I
what
don't
I mean?
think
Like,
that's going to happen.
Are they... Okay.
And it might never happen.
What?
Like, Irish people might never revolt. They might just keep voting the way they are forever. Like,
yeah.
In one way, it's almost...
dying.
In one way, it's almost normal order of things. It's like the welfare state was set up after World War II.
Yeah.
And it was this idea that, like, we had fucked ourselves, but now we're, after World War II, there's a lot of money went into Europe from America, and they were like, we have so much money, we can just afford to look after whoever the fuck we want. But before that, you had that Victorian idea or earlier, where it was like, the poor shouldn't be pampered.
Well, also they kind of saw what happened, what came from ignoring that, and that's why they even set up like the EU and stuff to try and like manage it so that money didn't interfere in that way.
But those are two separate things. Like the World War One and Two didn't happen because the elites were ignoring the poor. You know, the World War One was the elites exploiting the poor.
Yeah.
And World War Two was, you know, complicated as well, but it was like just Germany being immiserated and embarrassed politically.
Yeah.
So like you can have stable societies where the elites look after themselves and the poor are left to get fucked.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
It's not necessarily unstable.
You said something, I don't know if it was on this podcast or it was off, but like you said something about, are we going to get to a stage where essentially corporations and companies have, you know, because the governments keep going, oh, we're talking to Jeff Bezos to try and get more people here. We've got Tim Apple coming over,
but
etc.
Exactly,
you know?
like that used to be the model.
Yeah.
Is that the government has certain roles, but things like charity and social welfare were left to the discretion of individuals.
Yeah.
So at certain times in English history, there was like, so there was a big cholera outbreak in England, or like a lot of diseases, and they affected everybody. And then the aristocracy said, it is within our interest to make sure everybody can live hygienically.
Yeah.
And you have these big public welfare projects where they set up bathhouses and laundry houses, right?
Yeah.
That wasn't a government scheme. That was private individuals or aristocracy setting up these, you know, and that was considered the model. It's like when the plight of the poor affects everybody, then you step in. But the government's role isn't to step in. So that's what's happening now. It's that the government are saying, like, you know, you hear about Reaganomics. Like Reagan's idea was you want to have no market interference and no taxes. So people get as much money as they can in and they can spend it how they like. Yeah. What he actually did was he said, we're going to lower taxes and we're going to manage the market to disproportionately benefit companies. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. He's not saying they can do what they like. It's like, we'll help support companies. So now you have the government supporting companies and saying, your role is going to be increasingly to step in when we don't. To look after these people, but you'll do it at a profit. Yeah. You know?
Yeah, I guess then that's what I was meant. No, that's all true. And that's, I think that's it. But
so like, maybe that's where
so maybe that is like where it's heading. Almost,
yeah, it'll just be like, when, like you saw in France, Deliveroo sort of leveraged the position, and Amazon leveraged the position where they didn't want Amazon to buy Deliveroo in France because of their, monopoly laws. And then Deliveroo was saying, hey, you know, there's COVID, there's a pandemic. If we don't get bought over by Amazon, which we want, we won't be able to fulfill the need of the people. You know what I mean? It's like in an ideal world, the government would be able to provide food for people stuck at home. But Deliveroo is saying, actually, we're doing what you need to be done. We supply food at a cheap cost to people at home. But if we aren't allowed to be bought over by Amazon, we'll collapse. Yeah. And then you, the government, will need to fulfill our role.
Right, yeah.
And then the government were like, well, we don't want to do that. We'll let you be bought over by Amazon. So that's why Jeff Bezos is so rich. Yeah. But like then his wealth went up by billions because he was like, to the government, he was saying, I'll take on more state responsibilities. Yeah. For a profit.
But again, and I mean, this is no news to anybody, but it's always like financial, fiscal, profit motivated, always thinking along that line. So when I said earlier, who are they going to govern? What I meant is you have a virus that is going to kill people. And yet it's raging through and they're keeping businesses open and doing all this type of stuff. Like, we need to keep this fucking ship aloft.
But you see...
And it's like, but people will die.
But you see, they're their magical thinking is that the market will supply a solution.
Yeah.
So, I mean, back in the day, they would think, all these people would die, but that's just the way nature goes, and then we'll see, the market correct itself. They don't really think like that anymore. But what they do believe, and if you were to talk to any of these neoliberals about climate change, they'd say there'll be a market intervention.
There'll be carbon fucking extractors and all this type of shit.
Yeah, they'll say there will be something invented.
Yeah.
So these people are just who we govern? Oh, we'll govern a population of people who are vaccinated by some miracle drug.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's who they'll govern.
But then even then they're saying in America, the vaccine will be affordable to people. And you're kind of they're still talking about buying the fucking vaccine as opposed to providing it for people to make sure that society doesn't
I know,
collapse.
that's it. Trump had to almost die.
Yeah.
He had a near-death experience.
Yeah.
Was pumped full of fucking adrenochrome and steroids.
Yeah.
And then he came out and was we'll give it to you for free.
Yeah.
In a state where you and I would be jumping off buildings thinking that we could fly.
Yeah.
His thinking is I can do anything.
Yeah.
I can supply a life-saving drug for free.
I don't know. It's possible that's what he... Yeah, no, let's say that is what he thought. I mean, to me, I just find it hard to believe that he thought that stuff at all. To me, it was kind of he... it's the second miracle cure drug that he has tried to fucking flog in the pandemic, and I feel like if it's his fever dream, that's just the things that he's into. He loves being I like being on the TV, I like talking to people, I like being a New York real estate guy, and I like kind of flogging stuff. I got my steaks, I got my college, I got my wedding. So he's kind of there. Energon, a great thing, it's amazing. Re-Energon.
Yeah, but sorry, go on.
No, but that was the point. I was in do I think that this is wait, what'd you say? You said something.
My point was he was out of his mind, so he was promising for free.
Yeah.
But he's not going to give it for free.
Right.
Because he doesn't believe in that.
Yeah.
He would just charge for it. But he was so rattled by almost fucking dying. He was just whatever, anything is possible.
Does he believe that he was dying, or what? Some people don't believe he even had COVID at all.
Well, maybe he wasn't rattled, but he was pumped full or something. He was out of his mind.
Yeah.
He was. He was well, see, we were looking at the speeches talking about kissing all the boys and girls.
Oh god, that's so
getting
good.
into the crowds and all this.
I'm gonna kiss them. I kiss the men. I kiss the wives.
And then he was just I'm young. You know what I mean? He was out of his mind.
I'm gonna live forever.
Yeah, literally.
And he's going I'm gonna live forever. Everything is the world is as I've created it in my head. I wanted to be president. Now I am president.
Yeah.
And it's I'm young. I'm a young man. And people are he's obviously joking. He's I don't know. I mean, he's joking, but also he believes it. You know what I mean?
That's it. He's joking until you question him.
Yeah.
And then he's deadly serious.
He's no, I know that I'm old, but I mean, really, I'm not that old for an old person. I'm just kind of I'm young.
I'm also young.
And I'm also healthy and
that's it.
Virile, and I'm going to live forever. I'm not going to die.
Yeah.
So what was this all in relation to it all? I mean, you were talking about market interventions. That's what they believe. They're and I think you're right. Another thing I would bring up as well is Boris Johnson and Trump's approaches to COVID was the huckster thing of just seeing what was happening, the whole world falling apart. And I was God, what was it? It's like Krusty in that episode of The Simpsons where Sideshow Bob gets all of the TV turned off, and he's turn off all the TV or whatever the fuck. And then he's if I get on the TV, I'll be the only thing on the air.
Yeah.
And so he drives out to the Alkali Flats and he's got it's the Stingy and Battery show. And then Sideshow Bob comes to try and kill him. Anyway, it's a great episode. It's a great show. You should watch it. You should check it out. But the point is, they literally are hey, if this thing turns out to be bullshit, we're in a fucking prime position to just reap the rewards.
I think Trump believed that.
Yeah. Oh no, I think Johnson believed it 100%.
I think with Johnson, and I honestly think this, is that he was just so incompetent. Like, everything you always read about him is that he's sort of earnest in some ways, but completely incompetent at anything other than pitching himself.
Yeah.
So I think that I think Trump was very much aware of what he was doing. I don't know, but I think Boris Johnson was just cruelly incompetent.
He's no, actually maybe you're right, because like all of the contracts then when they finally did pick up the pace was all to these Tory people who fucked it up immediately. You know what I mean? It would be like, oh, my wife's brother owns this company, here's $1 billion for face masks, and they arrive and they all have like a fucking hole in the center.
That's it. Whereas Trump was just like selling bleach. You know what I mean?
He's like, bleach.
He was just like, he's basically, if it's real, I make money. If it's fake, I make money. You know what I mean? Whereas Boris Johnson's just like, oh, I went to school with a guy who owns a fabric shop, so why don't I just give him £1 billion to make masks? God. You know?
Well, actually, one other thing we should say about Leo's tweet about they want to tax them, is that he was responding to Sinn Féin's alternative budget by Pierce Doherty. Finally, like, kind of, I thought that was great, honestly.
Did you read it?
No. I'm not talking about it was great in that the budget was great. I'm saying as a tactic to do something. Finally, it's a feeling of like, all right, we're going to govern like we're governing. Do you know what I mean? We're acting like we're in government.
Yeah.
And they did that, and then the thing is, the proof is in the pudding. It doesn't really matter if every number in there is correct. It's just the matters all the people that were pissed off, all the Fine Gaelers who just destroyed them. It was like, you're not government, we're government, you fucking phonies. Do you know what I mean?
That's it.
So they got really pissed off.
Like, I don't know what actually happens day to day in Leinster House.
Yeah.
But Sinn Féin are obviously acting in such a way that just completely gets under their skin.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're doing it on purpose, but like every single Fine Gael politician is just fuming 24/7.
I've never understood, because like you see like Mary Lou in Leaders' Questions or something, or back when Leo was leader, but asking stuff like, well, I don't know what the Taoiseach thinks is happening. She'd just be like that, and it's like, I mean, and then he'll be like, well, your balaclava is slipping out, you fucking dickhead. He like gets so wound up, and you're just like, she's not doing anything. She's like just doing as like
they obviously must be doing something.
Well, I'm not like I'm not bashing them for, because I actually think that I've been critical of the way that they, I think, somewhat wasted the pandemic, and that they kind of didn't agitate for a unity government, in the way that they could have. Like, they kind of were just like, oh, we don't know about COVID, let's let the chips fall where they may. And then Mary Lou got it, obviously, which also meant that they kind of it fucked things up for them, you know. But there was like a period there where it's like, where the fuck are you? Are the media not covering you, or are you not doing something? Do you know what I mean? Because, we even said it back, like, what about like virtual town halls? What about like building upon the momentum that you had after the election, where you were filling out like conference halls? Like, why aren't you doing anything? And anyway, this is a kind of like finally coming back to like, okay, here's something. Here's like actual policy, and here is how we would govern if we were in government. And it gives people a kind of a thing to go like, okay, well, they're fucking serious. They did something. Do you know what I mean? And it forces you to kind of look at what the current government are doing, and then what they're proposing, and be like, which is better? Do you know? Because the bullet points of their proposal is like investment in social housing, basically, or affordable housing, and then investment in healthcare, and then also doing the thing which most people are saying, which is to fucking borrow at this moment when they're giving money away, and just invest in infrastructure and stuff that. And then the Fine Gael people are like, they're so pissed off that this happens, and they have no response to it, which is the other thing. It's very. They're like, oh, can you believe they want to tax multinationals? Or this amazing tweet from Neil Richmond, which I have actually copied and pasted. And why are borrowing conditions so good? Who was the party that restored Ireland's finances? And what did Sinn Féin do throughout this process? Audacious duplicity from Sinn Féin again with their alt budget. And you're just like, why are borrowing conditions so good? So Fine Gael created the fucking pandemic or something,
they ate the bat.
But like just baffling. Just like, I just feel confused all the time.
That's an angry tweet. Do you know what I mean? Like, he doesn't believe that.
Yeah.
And like, he doesn't have answers to any of those questions. Yeah. But he's just so pissed off.
Yeah.
That he's tweeting it.
I just find it so... Like, the current moment is so confusing to me because it's kind of like everything's fucked up and like everything's fucked up and on fire, and everybody is just kind of going like, well, kind of shrug emoji, you know?
Like, they're acting like fucking Ratchet out of Ratchet and Clank.
Yeah, I love that game. Great game.
Just shrugging. Where they need to be a hero.
Let's talk about fucking Noam Chomsky. I want to get that in here.
Oh yeah. Everyone we know on Twitter was giving out about the interview between Virgil Texas, Brianna Joy Gray. Not Greyjoy, not freaking
Game of Thrones Grey.
And one of the White Walkers from Game of Thrones.
So yeah, basically, I want to give some background on this because what happens is obviously Noam Chomsky is like a fucking 90-year-old man at this stage and seems to just say yes to every single interview. So as a result, he's been on like a million.
He says yes to everyone.
So he's on like a bunch of right-wing, alt-right documentaries where he's like, well, I don't think Jordan Peterson is actually as great as you think he is. And, you know, or maybe he's whatever, I don't know much. You know, he's just kind of there. He's just chatting on Skype all the time. And it's like, so what's happened now is anytime Chomsky appears on something and somebody has an opposing view to him, they're immediately considered like a huckster, do you know? So Bad Faith as well. I want to put some context on that. But Bad Faith, Brianna Joy Gray was Bernie Sanders' press secretary. Before that, she appeared on a number of podcasts talking. Oh, she worked for The Intercept. She worked for Current Affairs. She did a lot of leftist writing, and she's outspoken in her field, and she's a cheerful, lovely person, you know?
Yeah, you like her on a personal level.
On a personal level, yes, I do. She had another podcast called There's Something Wrong on the Internet, or Someone's Mad Online. I can't remember, but it was just her and her friend in New York talking about like pop culture stuff.
Right.
So I listened to that, and I just like, and then she became Bernie Sanders' press secretary, and she like, you just look up any interview with her, and she's just smiling, doing the best that she can when people are just full on attacking her and saying that she doesn't exist because she's a black woman who supports Bernie Sanders. Like, just doesn't exist. And then
wasn't some guy like, just because you have a freakish black girl, wasn't it?
Yeah, there's a guy, Jason Johnson, and he is black, and he appeared on a black talk show, and he's like, oh yeah, Brianna Joy Gray embarrassed herself the last day on TV, and he's like, I don't care how many. He basically says that Bernie didn't have a broad enough base or sort of support amongst black people, and he didn't care how many girls you rolled out from the island of misfit black women to try and convince him otherwise.
That's it.
And they were like, the hosts were like, whoa, maybe you should like take that. And he's like, I'm sorry, but that's just not. And then he had to like take some time off from his job because of this fucking comment, you know. And then all you need to do is look as well, like Nina Turner, the abuse that she received. Also, the fucking horse whisperer, this guy who, you know, at horse whisperer, he was like a Twitter account, and he would constantly be featured on the news as kind of like, well, let's see what the public has to say about Bernie Sanders. Oh, they think he's a piece of shit and that Medicare for All is a pie-in-the-sky dream. And then it turns out this guy is like somebody who worked for the health industry as a lobby, you know, and this is like personal account. This is what Jack Allison discovered. But the reason Jack Allison discovered it is because he basically accused Brianna Joy Gray of not being black. He said like she's basically not black because of the politics she has and the stuff people she supports, okay? And then people inferred that the horse whisperer was black, and he did not correct them. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
But it became very clear sooner or later that he is actually a white man. You know what I mean? So he was a white man saying that this woman was not black because of her politics.
Yeah, but Joe Biden said the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, this is it. And so she has been... So she had Hear the Burn, which is another podcast. I tried listening to it, but I had to stop because it was like... It was the most treacly, earnest podcast from a woman who's incredibly sweet and earnest, you know?
Right.
And she was really like going, this is the positive message. This is what we're getting out there. This is what we want to sell to people. And then the Bernie campaign ended, and we all well, I do anyway, believe that it was fucking sabotaged by the Democratic Party, and then Virgil Texas of Chapo, okay,
not his real name, by the way.
I don't know what his real name is. It doesn't matter, does it? Blind Boy, not his real name, by the way. So Virgil Texas was all gung-ho in on Chapo. They were doing big fucking venue podcast in support of Bernie, where they sang Solidarity Forever, and they were like, one more push. They destroyed the Iowa caucus so that Bernie, so that's how much they want to stop you, and they fucking can't. And then the Bernie campaign imploded. Virgil Texas disappears for months, okay?
Yeah. Well, it didn't implode. It was that the DNC, they refused to stop doing primaries in COVID areas.
Yeah.
So they're basically like, we're going to keep doing these until Bernie drops out.
Yeah.
And
because they know that he would, because he gives a shit.
But so anyone who gets COVID and dies, well, that's on Bernie's hands. You know?
So Bernie dropped out and has been consistently campaigning for Biden since, even though he's a fucking geriatric man. He's a fucking old man.
And Biden keeps insulting him.
And also, Biden is not campaigning for himself the way that Sanders is campaigning for him, not even on the same level.
I know.
But anyhow, this all happened, and I think so Brianna Joy Gray started this podcast, Bad Faith, with Virgil Texas. What you have now, these people who are trying to form a kind of broad coalition left. Okay.
And my theory, and you don't agree.
I don't agree.
It's Brianna Joy Gray knows what she's talking about, and she chose Virgil, not his real name, to appease the nerds. She's just like, I know what I'm talking about, but I need some loser nerd to
well, he is a wonk. He's a self-proclaimed wonk. He does know this shit, but also
I don't talk over you.
I wasn't talking over you. You'd finished talking.
And I do talk over you.
Yeah. But Bad Faith, I mean, even you see the images for it. You have a leftist podcast that's trying to do a broad coalition left, because they fucking are. You know?
They have good talkers, and then they have just the stupidest. It's such good mix, because you just do get a wide perspective, even if some of them are dumb as shit.
Yeah, so you have for example, one of their panels, they had I'm not sure if I'm remembering a bunch of different panels together, but they have the woman who coined the term identity politics.
Yeah.
They have Wyatt Cenac, who used to present for The Daily Show. They've got a 21-year-old sex worker in New York City.
Yeah.
And then they have
the guy who does the voice on the Trump
James
cartoon show.
Adomian, who James Moran is very dismissive of, even though I think he's...
Well, I feel like if you do that work, you should be shot. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't disagree there.
You said earlier today that anyone who joins the army is a bad person.
Yeah.
So I feel like if you work in a cartoon like that, you should be in Abu Graves.
Can I clarify as well, just for listeners?
No.
I said everybody who joins the army is a bad person. What I mean is, in my personal opinion, if you are prepared to kill another human individual, okay, then I can't, I just can't get around that. But
every time I get in my car, I'm prepared to kill.
Okay.
Are you saying I'm a bad person?
Yes.
I'm I need to get to Ali Bunyan's famous Chinese restaurant, Jackie Chan's. That's what it's called. And if someone gets hit, that's just what needed to happen. And I needed to do it.
In the picture for this podcast, you have a black woman and an Asian man who apparently is queer.
Half Asian.
All right. You said he was bi, apparently, or something.
Yes, not
Also,
bi.
by the way, James Adomian, gay, okay?
What about it?
I'm just saying that's a broad
No, it's not.
panel.
Being gay isn't a political thing.
It's not a political thing, but it offers a different perspective.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, it does.
No, Leo's
in
gay.
America, yes, it does.
Leo's gay, and he's the worst.
Well, even here, it does. Yeah, well, I disagree. Anyway, I'm just saying, I think that you can offer a perspective on this stuff, a different perspective. But anyway, what I'm saying is that they have broad panels, and they have interesting guests. They had Marianne Williamson on, okay?
Yeah.
Who anyway.
What about her? You liked her.
I did like her. I actually, you know, she kind of got painted as this weird lady who is anti-vax. I don't know what her opinions on vaccines are because I didn't say it in the thing.
That's it. It was sort of funny because they were like, she gets painted as a, what was it? There's some name. She was basically like a health food shop lady.
Yeah.
She sort of is.
Yeah.
But like, there's not a mark against her.
But she's kind of like, you know, and I don't use this in a reductive way because I think it was... basically, one thing that she said within the podcast that she was on is that what they did with her and what they did with Jill Stein, who was running as third party, not as part of the Democratic Party like she was, is that they paint anybody who has politics that are to the left of, you know, the Democratic Party as it is. They paint them as kooky, weird individuals. Like, oh, she's into spiritual healing and a hippy dippy shit. She's to be dismissed, you know?
She was tweeting about orbs and stuff.
But she still does. In those podcasts, she was talking about politics of love, okay?
That is kooky, like. That's
yeah,
not,
it is,
that's
but
not,
it's like...
that is kooky.
But it's just to mean like, well, fuck that. Let's let the real people talk about politics.
Well, like, they didn't do it with Biden, they didn't do it with Sanders. They didn't make him seem kooky. They made him seem evil.
Well, they called him like, well, Trump called him Crazy Bernie, and all these people were trying to be like, oh, he's got this pie in the sky thing. He's just this angry old man who's yelling at the clouds. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they tried to dismiss them as like their concerns are not legitimate.
Yeah, but that's different to the very particular picture that was painted of her as
that's fair, but like, and also like for all their talk about fucking identity issues as well, then they kind of like, it is a very common refrain to just dismiss a woman as being like, oh, she's a fucking crazy bitch, you know what I mean? It.
She's like, I identify as an orb.
Yeah, but she talks about the politics of love, and I was like which what she said was, okay, and this isn't, when you allow her to talk and tease this idea out, you're just like, fair enough. I don't know if I'd go behind you entirely, but I understand what you're saying. Which is, she goes, you talk about the 50s and 60s where, you know, people, there was counterculture, there was art, there was people like, you know, splintering off into these different groups, and they left politics behind to be taken over by these fucking, you know, automatons, essentially. This is her argument, you know, but what I'm saying, she's saying is, I think we need to embrace it again and talk about like politics as a human good or a feeling, to try and come back to something instead of just leaving it to these people who act like it's this science or this bureaucratic thing that is just needs calibration, as opposed to something which is like, no, we need to be creative with our solutions, our thinking, and our feeling around it, you know?
I know it's not your argument.
Yeah.
But to me, it's like getting the order of things wrong. Like, these people were alienated from the political process. It's not like we were like, you can have it, to the politicians.
Okay, yeah.
They took it. You know what I mean?
No, well, that's it. And the point is, she's saying this. They're not like talking over, interrupting. Yeah. They're allowing her to say these things. They're asking questions to encourage it. And she said, I don't want to say a single bad word about Biden because, like, I feel like any bad word I say, if that influences somebody to not vote for him, then I can't risk that. It's too much of a threat. We're talking about hysterectomies at the border. We're talking about, you know, judiciaries being filled. You know, we're talking about the structure of politics as we know it being dismantled in the US. So it's imperative that we vote for him. But I don't pretend that it's something that I would relish doing, you know? And so she said this, and it was just an interesting conversation. And she's like,
and then she was like, my orb is ready. I need to go. Then
she hopped in it and she flew away.
Yeah.
You know?
And then
looks like Marianne Williamson's blasting off again.
Yeah. And then 3 days later, her hand shoots up from the grave, and it's Noam Chomsky.
Yeah.
Knocking on the door.
But like, you know,
of the podcast.
He's a 90-year-old man. So I'm not saying this to dismiss what I'm saying is like, he said the same thing again and again and again and again. So what he had was, I've got this thought, I've got this feeling about this, and this is what it is. Okay.
Yeah. He basically just switched off his hearing aid for the whole thing, from the sounds of it.
But like, what happened is people got really pissed off because Virgil Texas posted up a very glib tweet, which to me was incredibly tongue-in-cheek. Like
I'm not sure. Didn't you say you also kept saying it on the podcast?
I mean, but I still think it's a joke, so I don't care. Like, I just think that that's the way he is, and like, you know, he brings that element to the podcast as well, of being kind of like contrarian and confrontational. and funny. Like, he's funny as well. Like, he is. So, like, he posted, like, here's the us arguing with Noam Chomsky, we won. And, you know, like, I don't know, I didn't see any problem with it.
Well, like, that seems to be counter to the ethos of the podcast. Like, he wouldn't have said that about, like, the conversation I had with Marianne Williamson. It was like, he was obviously annoyed about the podcast. Like, the whole point of the podcast is that's not an argument to win. It's a coalition of the left. So, when he's just like, he was basically just being like, yeah, we won.
Well, I think that he was given what he had been gotten. Do you know what I mean? Like, because I don't think that, like, Noam Chomsky was particularly, like, I don't think he came out particularly well in it.
All I'm saying is that I don't think that was a joke. Or, like, if it was a joke, it was very pointed.
Yeah. I think also there is something to be said about, you know, this esteemed intellectual that everybody knows, and then to just glibly say you won an argument, which is so, like, is not like, it wasn't like they were setting about to win. They were trying to have a discussion about something.
I think that Virgil, from the sounds of it, walks away thinking he won the argument. Because he would tend to reduce things like that. He would just be like, you know, we asked a question, you failed to refute it. Yeah. We won.
No, that's true. Okay, I'll give you that. But, like, and also he there was a terrible episode of the podcast where he was saying that voting was completely pointless.
That was horrific.
Yeah. And he kept kind of just trying to shut down the argument with her by going, yeah, well, you make my point for me, so I guess I won, you know, I won that argument.
Exactly.
And it was annoying, okay?
Yeah.
But he said 3 things on this interview with Noam Chomsky. Like, he is the smallest part of it. And then if you look at Brianna Joy Gray's retweet of it, she didn't say anything of the sort. She was like, here's our interview with Noam Chomsky, and it was a little less than I'd hoped for, unfortunately, but, you know what I mean, here it is. And so people have seen a 10-second clip, 2 10-second clips, and also, by the way, 2 10-second clips which I think ask questions which are worth asking, you know?
Yeah.
And he didn't answer them. He avoided them, and it's because he made up his mind about it. And also, like, you know, he is like 90, so he doesn't have to give a shit about, like, these 30-something podcasters, do you know? He went on it like he goes on everything. Here's my chance to talk about, well, not here's my chance, it's like, if you want to engage, I'll engage with you. Yes, these are the things that I think, and that's that. But I don't think that there's ever anything in his mind anymore of, like, I'm going to have a discussion with these people. It's like,
I don't think he went on in good faith.
No. And so he went on and he was talking, and then he would do these things, which, you know, for all the criticism of Virgil doing, like, oh, I put out these things and then I've won the argument because you refuted them, you know, you couldn't disprove them. He was doing shit like, you know, so you're saying you want your children to breathe underwater. It's like, no, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is there a point that you can leverage your vote? And then he's like, well, you've accepted the establishment framework because actually voting is the least important thing that you can do. So that's why you should vote for Biden. I was like, okay, well then why, if voting is not important, then, like, why are we voting for Biden, do you know? And then it's like, because Biden has the most progressive climate plan. And which you pointed out, it was like, if you're going to defend voting for Biden, that's not the worst way to do it. Like
he's not defending, he's not opposed to fracking.
Yeah.
They made that very clear. And, like, earlier today, we read in the paper, like, they've been fracking so hard in America that they're fucking up the oil reserves.
Yeah.
So they're fracking so hard to destroy the oil industry.
Yeah.
And Biden isn't going to set foot against the fracking industry.
Yeah. And, like, the thing about it is, like, you know, there is obviously with Trump, he pulled out of, like, the Paris Climate Accord. He had, like, you know, dismantled the EPA, you know. He does what Chomsky referred to as an accelerationist policy. He is race to the bottom. This is what we're doing. But at the same time, it's kind of like what you're talking about is, like, you know, is it a race to the bottom or is it just a kind of stroll to the bottom? Do you know what I mean? Like, cause what's the fucking difference? It was like the Paris Climate Accords. Like, what does that mean? This is like an argument, you know, a thing that's made in, like, hey, by 2050 we'll all be carbon neutral. 2050 comes around, we're not carbon neutral, whatever. Like, what are you gonna do?
That's
you know?
Like, Biden would be as happy as anyone else to work with the oil industries to maximize their profits.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas, Trump is like, I'll do your work for you.
Yeah.
Biden is, I'll work with you.
Yeah.
I'll give you a dig out. You know what I mean?
It's like, well, what are we, to be honest, like, what she was asking was not unreasonable. What she was saying was, like, and what she said in the clip, because what she brings up is, like, what about, like, as a black woman, she is bringing up that a lot of her family, climate change isn't fucking an issue because there's more pressing concerns for them. And if you're not addressing those concerns, and it's something that Naomi Klein has even said.
Well, like, it is an issue. It's just not, they don't feel like it's a pressing issue.
No, yeah, exactly. And Naomi Klein has said, like, anybody who attempts any sort of green revolution without taking into all the account all these other societal issues is doomed to failure because it can't sustain, And so the one thing she brought up in this thing, which, and I wish it wasn't a Patreon episode so everybody could fucking hear it, I don't know why I feel such a need to defend her. It's just like, she is a happy, smiley lady who is now being accused of being like the figurehead of a negative Bernie Sanders campaign, and also associated with like the type of alt-right shitheads who'd get Noam Chomsky on the phone to like try and get him to talk about how great Jordan Peterson is and failing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's like they're not the same thing. What she was doing was a discursive podcast, and he was evading it and just saying, no, you don't understand, this is how it is, and this is the world we live in.
I don't know if people didn't realize, like, Chomsky obviously feels like he's campaigning for Biden. Goes on these things. He's like, my goal is not to engage in discussion. It's to convince people to vote for Biden.
That's what he says in the thing. He said the only thing that you can do as an activist and politically, your vote is, important, but not as important as you think it is. You need to convince people it's in their interest to do this.
Yeah, but like, what I'm saying is that Chomsky wasn't. I said it earlier. It's like, he's not engaging in good faith.
Yeah.
He's just like, this is another campaign stop in the anti-Trump campaign that I am pursuing.
It's not like, obviously not a pro-Biden thing, because I don't think he's a fan of Biden.
But essentially he's saying, he's campaigning for Biden. Yeah. He's saying, vote for Biden.
Yeah.
So he comes on this podcast, doesn't mean shit to him.
Yeah.
So he's just like, yeah, vote for Biden. And anything they bring up, he's never going to capitulate.
Yeah, and that's exactly what happens.
At any point, because at the end of the day, he's right to say that you should vote for Biden.
Yeah.
I believe.
I believe that
and
now.
He's not going to engage in a discussion about why you should demand for that, in case it dissuades someone from voting for Biden.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I can almost imagine, like, off pod, he would be more willing to discuss these things.
I don't know. He seems pretty cranky.
Well, see, yeah, he is, but like, when something is being broadcast, he's very aware of his influence.
I suppose, yeah.
And he's using that to promote Biden.
Yeah, but he does that for every single Republican candidate, against all of them, do you know?
Democratic candidate.
No, against every Republican. Because that's always what he's like, it's a vote against the Republicans, and that's essential.
Yeah.
But everything is an existential threat, and it is. But she was like bringing up, like, we keep finding ourselves in a position where we're having to vote against existential threats. So what do we do to avoid this, do you know? And is it a case that we have to leverage our vote? Because if you say, I'm going to vote for you no matter what, then those people don't have to do anything for you, do you know?
Yeah.
And so she's kind of, and he was like, so, but then she would bring this up, and then he would go, so you're going to vote for Trump? And she's like, no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, is there a scenario whereby you can use your vote? And I was like, well, you've already accepted the democratic framework. The propaganda that fed that voting is the only thing that you do. And he's like, no, and I'm asking you is like, and then she's like, okay, putting that aside, all right, let's imagine, I think that I can say that most people who would want to pull the lever for Bernie Sanders recognize that they have to do it for Joe Biden now as an existential thing. So taking that as a given, when is enough? When do you get to a stage where it's like, we can't keep down this road, like, you know? And he was like, well, actually, we just need to get them in office and then push them left. And then they were like, well, we can't push them left because They won't go left. They've shown that now in this moment. And she's saying we're in a moment of like one of the biggest sustained political uprisings of like people out in the streets in protest about police reform, people out in the streets about the Green New Deal and talking about this, Medicare for all of these things, and he won't do anything. So she's like, why is the onus on me to hold my nose and vote for him? Why isn't he trying to get my vote? Why don't you think that? And then he's like, because you have a very narrow view, that's what you're thinking about, is it's very poorly reasoned. And he's saying stuff like this, like telling her that she's wrong, and it's like, I'm not saying this is, she's trying to put herself in the mind of a voter who is thinking these concerns. It's like, how is my life going to materially change by doing this, And one thing he keeps saying is, you just need to do the 10 minutes, take 10 minutes out of your day to go and vote and to make that decision. It's like, and she points out, of course, it's not 10 minutes. People have to queue in line for 11 hours to vote in some places. Like, it's not that simple. And you're talking about it in the era of a pandemic where people might be risking their lives to go out and vote for fucking Biden. Do you know what I mean? It's like, so is there not anyway, so she was getting really pissed off because the other thing that happens is, to him, and he's not wrong, the climate is the most important thing. But what it ends up kind of doing is it means all the other issues don't mean anything. Do you know what I mean? And
yeah, I know I said earlier, it's like, why? I don't know, I just don't think Biden's going to be good for the climate.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like, if your most important thing is climate, this election shouldn't even register for you. Yeah. Because you're just like, this makes no difference
He
whatsoever.
said the Green Deal is not my deal.
That's it.
He's like,
Like, he's been so clear about how fucked he's going to be in the environment.
Yeah.
And like, why would you register anything he's saying?
Also, like, here's the other thing that happens is these Republicans go in and they do these awful shit, these awful things, okay? And then the other guys get back in and they don't fix that.
They just ameliorate it slightly.
They just kind of, no, but they accept it. So he's pulled out of the Paris Climate Accords. You think that Biden's going to get in? We need to open up negotiations with Paris again, try and be like hand in cap or whatever, cap in hand or whatever.
I can imagine he would. Because,
no, I don't think he would.
Yeah, because the Paris climate things were pretty... It's an easy win.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're just like, yeah, we'll sign whatever because it's all symbolic anyway.
Yeah, because we already pulled out.
What he won't do is that he probably won't... Like, he gets to do a big thing of like, hey, it's me. Unlike that other guy, I'll sign anything about the environment.
Yeah.
What he won't do is give all the funding back to the EPA.
Yeah.
Because that would be meaningful. He'll give half back.
Yeah.
And then say like, we've raised them by 200% or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Like, he'll do all the easy stuff.
Yeah.
And then he'll do half the hard stuff.
Yeah.
Or, less.
So that's like, just all to kind of bring it back to this podcast and this episode. What happened at the end of the episode as well is she gets off of the interview and she's like, well, thank you for your time and you've certainly given us a lot to think about. And she's pleasant and cordial. And then Virgil asked three things. One was, he quoted Chomsky's own research back at him saying, you said that this amount of money is the bare minimum that is required to save the environment as it stands. And Biden is only even less, as like a fucking, like, literally 0.1% of that he is saying that he's going to allocate. So how can you make this harm reduction vote if that's the case? And it's like, because the difference is that Trump is dismantling all this stuff and he's accelerating it, and so we can't get everything we want, but we have this and we just need to agitate and push. And they're like, but you can't agitate and push that person who is at the moment refusing to do any of that, even when all of this clear and present danger is right there. And then the next thing that Virgil asked was, would you, and they put it up as a clip, would you say the same thing if Mike Bloomberg was the candidate?
Yeah.
And like, I don't know much about, well, I know Bloomberg's a piece of shit, but I don't think that much about
Bloomberg is Trump, like.
Yeah. And he was like, yes, of course, because everybody's better than Trump. And then, but like, the question was just designed as a way to be like, what's your limit? Like, who are you going to accept as a Democratic nominee before you go like, this isn't helping my cause?
But that's it. See, these are the stump speech answers.
Yeah.
Like, when a politician goes on a talk show, and they go, why do people vote for you?
Yeah.
They don't earnestly engage in the question. They just go, how could, well, that's a bad example, but like,
Yeah.
Any question they're asked, they think, how do I turn this into an answer as to why I'm better than the opponent?
Yeah.
And that's what he was doing.
That was
and
exactly it, yeah.
It's incredibly annoying to see it because you respect
him,
but I think that's honestly what he was doing.
But you think that you respect him, but you think that he should respect those people. Like, these are like the people who are coming up behind him. You know, these are young intellectuals, people who are, you know, academics and knowledge and experience and are trying to invigorate something. And he's kind of just being like, you can't change it. So, like, the only way that you can change it is by agitating. And it's like, you know, politically. I mean, I don't even know what that fucking means. Do you know what I mean? Like, what is agitating politically? Does that mean getting out in the streets and saying, I want this, which they're fucking doing, and nobody's listening? Do you know? It's like, it's like, what are you talking about? Like, because I just don't know what levers he's imagining exactly.
That's it. It would seem like you would need to supply an alternative, which he isn't doing.
Yeah.
He's saying you need to vote for him and then agitate.
Yeah.
But if you can't think of any way someone might successfully agitate, it's not a very convincing argument.
Yeah.
You know?
But he also says, like, well, he has actually been pushed because he's got the most progressive platform for climate. And then they were like, well, but it's
a low bar.
It's nothing. Do you know? It's like,
yeah.
And he's like, well, we can't always, I don't know. Anyway, it was a whole thing. It was very frustrating. I could hear, but like,
and like Marianne Williamson was doing something similar.
Yes, she was.
But she doesn't seem to respect.
Yeah, exactly. And it was because, like, you know, if you compare the two approaches, one was what Brianna Joy Gray correctly points out is like badgering. You're just like badgering somebody to give you a vote. Like, you have to vote. You have to vote.
Yeah.
That's your thing. You know, don't fuck this up. And Marianne Williamson was more like, I understand what you're talking about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, like, it was just this kind of thing. He just said anybody who doesn't vote or sits this one out is voting for Trump. You're a Trump voter. And it's kind of like, it's just so reductive and dismissive. And it's like, you know, I'm already going to do this shitty thing for you. Can you just, like, give me a fucking break? You know what I mean? Like, just... And she was talking about how, like, there's people out there who are saying, like, I'm drowning. Like, do something for me, please. Please. And he's going, no, but vote for me, you know? And it's just... No, I guess, why do we bring that up? Except I just didn't like the way it was framed. I thought that Brianna Joy Gray was correct. I thought that Virgil Texas was glib, but ultimately I thought he was right as well, I'll be honest. I thought that, like, he was evasive. He didn't answer the questions. But that's obviously, like you said, not what he was there for, do you know? So, like, it is possible for Virgil to be an asshole and for him still to be right about this, do you know? So yeah, I don't know. Now I got worked up about that. This stop. I really need to constantly resist the urge to talk about the podcast as it's happening. But I think the thing that bothers me is that we got so vocal and precise again about this American politics bullshit and podcast, whatever. And then when it came to the Irish stuff, it's just this nebulous cloud of like things that I know.
The Irish stuff.
You were. I mean, I think I just like got frantic pointing out other stuff about like, here's this, that, and the other. And, you know,
well, that's good.
I think like the idea when we started this was that I would learn and know a little bit more about Irish politics, but the things that prevent me from knowing the stuff that I want to know about Irish politics are still there, you know, which is this kind of droning, obfuscative voice, you know, of every politician, you know.
Yeah.
It makes me just like want to fucking tear my eardrum. You know what I mean? Like, I can't get the information that I need. I can't understand what's going on. I don't know the past because, like, I don't know. It feels like what books or what things do you read to understand the politics of the day? Do you know, of like back then in Ireland? Okay, And then what do you read and consume now to understand what's happening in the moment, do you know?
Yeah.
And there's a wealth of it for America and these people who have done this thinking and are able to disseminate it kind of to people, and you can listen to them, hear what they're saying, kind of get a feeling for them, I guess, and
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like in Ireland, each person who writes like that, it's the exact same fucking voice, you know? And also I don't know who to trust or who to get my information or who to get even little bits of information
Yeah, I
from.
think you just have to get your information from everywhere. Like,
yeah.
I don't think you should avoid reading something just because you don't trust it.
Yeah.
You should just be aware that you don't trust it. You
Yeah.
know? So, like, I'm reading this book about the Koch brothers. The guy is sort of, like, in love with it.
Yeah.
So you just have to be aware that, like, you're getting a glossier view.
You just need to know that's it. But I think there's something I can never quite put my finger on about how to describe it, but I know that Pat Leahy embodies it perfectly, which is like a weird, droning, sycophantic person who acts like, well, I'm just straight down the middle with you. I'm just looking at that the cards is how they're dealt, and we have to believe, Sinn Féin, not a normal party, and all this type of stuff. And it kind of like there's not just one Pat Leahy. There's Pat Leahy is a spectrum. Yeah. Everybody in Irish media has a little bit of this fucking Pat Leahy.
Yeah.
Half this kind of weird lib who just views politics as like a spectator sport, but also something I'm in, but also and it just kind of is like, and it's something that remains the same, and I don't know what I'm trying to get at. I'm just saying that, like, I'm pissed off with how much I know about American politics and how little I know about Irish politics. And now I'm doing a podcast about Irish politics, and I still don't know any fucking more. Do you know?
But you know more than most people.
Yeah, but it's like, yeah.
If people listen to this and they're like, I don't know half of what Gar's talking about, in a good way, is in there like, I'm learning,
Is that? I don't think that's true.
It is true.
I think people tune in because that they hear too much kind of partisan. Wait, is it bipartisan? It's bipartisan. This kind of thing is in, we're just talking all this shit that's happening, and nobody seems to be appropriately angry about it.
But like, half the people don't even know who like Micheál Martin is. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's.
Would you think that? Like,
that is
well,
true.
they definitely don't know that he's Taoiseach. I can say that for fucking certain.
You know what I mean? None of them would know who someone like Stephen Donnelly is.
Yeah.
And half the people we mentioned, most people in Ireland have never heard of.
You don't think people in Ireland have heard of Stephen Donnelly?
No.
I don't think you need to know his name to know that there's probably a health minister that's fucking up. You know what I mean?
I don't even know. I think people have no engagement in Irish politics,
Just say this really quick because I think we went over by a good bit. But I was thinking about News Talk, and we were mentioning it already, where Hazel Chu appeared on as like being interviewed.
Yeah, our sneaker wearing Lord Mayor.
Yeah, but he tried to interview her and going like, Lord Mayor, do you mind if I call you Hazel? And she's like, well, actually, you kind of have to call me the Lord Mayor. But he was kind of like, then he kind of proceeded apparently to bring up like AOC and all this type of shit, But like,
she's ethnic.
She did a thing, and she's a politician. Funny that, isn't it? It's crazy. Kind of have a lot in common, So like, yeah, I guess what I'm trying to talk about is they have obfuscated and made it very difficult to follow Irish politics for so long that then these kind of like TV shows, News Talk, like a radio show that's trying to pitch that kind of, talking points, conservative, whatever. It's like, let's just take some bits from America and tack it on here, How do we get to talk about the things that we want to talk about, which get the hits, which is the stuff in America. Well, we get on Hazel True, and then we just say AOC, and now we're away to the races. Do you know what I mean? It's
that's like... Yeah, I wonder if, like, I wonder how long that's been going on, where people like...
Yeah.
You know... Sean Lemass is our... JFK, you know, like, you're a young, handsome man, aren't you? You know?
Well, that's funny as well, because, like, we've even lost... Largely, I think... I mean, I don't know anything about Sean Lemass. I don't know anything about, like, the people who came before. We were thinking about watching this hockey miniseries, but I don't even know enough about fucking hockey to even weigh in, do you know?
Well, you know the basics. Would you know anything?
I don't know anything. Honestly, I know owned an island. That's about it. And then he fucking stole from a fundraiser for his friend's cancer treatment. I know that.
And he ran guns as well.
And he ran guns for the IRA. But we'll forgive him because he's in Fianna Fáil, you know?
Well, I guess read a book about him then.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think you're right, as in, like, sometimes I think, like, I'm so worried about being influenced or that people have an agenda that it means that I don't actually put enough stock in that, my own ability to discern information. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Or to see what people are saying in a text.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
But I guess, yeah, that's kind of... This is a podcast of two halves, and one of them's crazy, one of them's a bit more focused, and then this one is like a nice little... I feel better about having said all that, so it kind of puts a bow on it just a bit, hopefully.
Yeah.
All right, we've got it there. This episode ran long. Would have ran longer still. There's still a little bit of bullshit left to go, but I'm going to upload that as a separate extra episode to save you the hassle of looking at your timeline and seeing 2 hours. What in the name of God? Anyway, thank you to our patrons. If you want to hear an extra funny thank you thing, then listen to the bonus episode. But for now, I'm just going to rattle them off for time. Thank you, Connor Barry, Liam McCartan, Claire O'Neilan, Niall McGillicuddy, Ronan Carey, Niamh Kelly, Paulie Doyle, and Joe Joyce. Without you, this show couldn't have been possible.